the most valuable resources you have as an entrepreneur is your time and your energy. And if you can utilize that in the way that benefits you most, which is growing and building your business, taking care of your family, key relationships, doing stuff with people you love, that's going to make all the difference in your life. Because entrepreneurs that spend their time just building a business often wreck their family and their personal life. And then ones that get distracted by other things don't build a great business. So that kind of balance and making sure your time and your energy are spent in the way you want to spend it is critical. And too often entrepreneurs get caught up doing things that they shouldn't do just because they don't know someone else can do what they're trying to do even better than the way they do it.
Yeah, well, our good friend Joe Polish says the who, not the how, right?
The who, not the how.
And I think a few things you brought up there, the truly only finite resource we all have is our time. Money you can make more of, hypothetically, but time and energy, you can't replace that. And then I also always think through some of the most successful billionaires in the world. And oftentimes you can see that it does come at an impact to those family relationships because the time and the consumption of building the business, whether you think of even like Warren Buffett, who had the divorce, you think of Bezos, you think of Gates, you can go down the list. And most billionaires have been divorced, and it's not a coincidence.
Many years ago when I was a school teacher out in Queen Creek, Arizona, I remember I would do the yard work myself. And Mimi would say to me things like, you're terrible at the yard work. Why do you do the yard work? And I say, well, because why would I pay someone when I can do it myself? And I didn't have money to pay anyone at the time. And so that kind of stuck with that. And you've been married for a while. And when you've been married as long as I've been married, you realize that wives don't forget things. 20, 30 years later, they'll remind you. And so years passed. We had this successful business. And I was talking to another entrepreneur friend of mine on a Friday, and he said, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And I said, oh, I got to do the yard work. And he was like, do you like doing the yard work? And I said, no, I hate doing the yard work. And he's like, well, then why are you doing the yard work? And I said, well, why would I pay someone when I can do it myself? He said, Jim, pull out a piece of paper. I said, okay. And he goes, let's write down how much revenue your company brings in every year. And so I wrote that down. He goes, you probably work 50 hours a week, so divide that by 2,500. And we did. And he said, do you know you could work one more hour in your business doing what you love and make enough to pay for someone to do your yard work for an entire year? And that hit me at that moment. I don't know if this has happened to you before, but just a moment where I was like, that's so obvious. What was I thinking? How did I miss that? But I just got caught up in the habit of doing these things that I thought I was supposed to do because I grew up in a family where you wouldn't pay anyone to do anything that you could do yourself. So that was my aha moment as a young entrepreneur, that I realized, hey, I've got to choose how I spend my time. And if I can pay someone to do something like yard work and just work more in the business or spend more time with Mimi or whatever I want to do, that's a better use of my time and my money than doing it myself.
Yeah, well, it's a great story. And I think everyone goes through that. I think through my own journey of first hiring people to help clean the house, right? Dreading cleaning the house, but now when you have house cleaners, it's like amazing. And then you outsource the yard, you outsource more and more stuff, and then it feels good and good just to get that energy back. And to your point, I think the biggest hang up here is that what's interesting is that as an entrepreneur, you naturally understand this formula, because when you're an entrepreneur, you're going to hire other employees. You're going to hire someone maybe to be someone sit at the front desk. And because it's not the best use of your time to welcome everybody in the office, you're going to hire other employees in marketing and finance and all these different functions because it's not the best use of your time. But for whatever reason, that same application isn't often taken home into other facets of their life, whether it's the yard work like we're talking about, or even within your wealth management, because it seems to be like, well, I can figure this out. I can do it. But the truth is that the best use of your time, and what is it costing you?
Yeah, very true. And not only that, the outcomes are usually worse. And we talk about, the ostrich, the juggler, and the air traffic controller as different types of entrepreneurs with their wealth planning. The ostrich who buries his head in the sand and just says, I'll worry about all this financial stuff later. The juggler who tries to do all these things and knows he's dropping balls. And then the air traffic controller, which is the entrepreneur who has amazing professionals but manages and coordinates that team himself or herself. And of course, that's why we created the fractional family office, is so that the entrepreneur is not in the middle of that wheel managing all those different aspects of tax, legal, insurance, and investments, and has a fractional family office do that for him or her. And that frees up a ton of time and gets better outcomes, and is also an ROI, as we know with our own clients. They're getting more money back when they hire us than what they actually pay us, which is a great testament to the value of that model and that structure.